Let's do this one, Matt.
Do it.
It's a very long question, and it involves straw bale construction. So this is right up your alley. Am I wrong?
Yeah, pretty much. One of the questions is not a detail that I'm very
Should we
familiar
read his
with.
whole thing? It's really long.
I don't know that you need to read.
So the
entire
question
thing.
is, he's putting down straw bales, and this is now in the code. This is in the
Appendix S.
2015
straw
code,
bale.
right?
Yep.
So there are prescriptive guidelines for building with straw bales, believe it or not. And the detail is to pour a concrete foundation, have rebar embedded in the concrete at least 6 inches. You put I almost called them hay
impale
bales.
them. Yeah.
I almost called them hay bales, which is not accurate. Straw bales, and that holds them in place.
Mm-hmm.
And the straw bales are elevated on 4x4 sleepers.
Yeah, like 2x4s usually.
Okay.
And then a layer of foam sort of in between those sill plates.
So this question from Anthony involved, the code requires a Class 2 vapor retarder between the concrete foundation and the first course of hay bales.
Yeah, that's if you're putting the bales essentially on the foundation. There are other ways to do it. I mean, you could build a floor system on top of the foundation and then put your bales on top of that too. And that's the one house that I worked on. That's what we did. So we didn't have to have that vapor retarder there.
But most homes, straw bale homes, are in warm places that probably are being built on a slab, is my guess.
They may be, yeah.
Not
But
necessarily.
there's quite a few in the Catskills. I can tell you that. I know it boggles your mind, but it's up there. There's people up in Vermont doing it. I mean, it's
Minnesota
kind of,
even.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the original straw bales were in like Nebraska, and that gets pretty cold in the winter.
Yep.
Yep.
So Matt, you've got some experience with straw bales. What do you think it is that draws someone, especially outside of the Southwest, where you think it makes more sense to straw bale construction?
The deep window wells, they're beautiful. I think the plaster, it looks like an old world house. I mean, it looks like an English farmhouse or something like that. Normally, you have huge overhangs, and a lot of times they'll put like stone, like blue stone sills on the outside. And it just looks like a classic old house, and it's brand new, and you have an R value that's like, I don't know, 30 plus. Mm-hmm. You
for almost nothing.
Yeah, for almost nothing. I mean, you're using essentially a waste material.
What does a straw bale cost? Do you know?
I have no idea.
The actual bale?
Yeah.
Like a bale, it's like
for a few dollars, right?
If you're buying it from your local Agway for your Halloween decorations, it's probably like $5. But if you're buying it bulk from some local farmer, it's a couple bucks maybe, right?
Yeah, because I mean, it's waste to them. A lot of places they just burn it.
What?
I mean, because it's just like the leftovers from like wheat or barley.
Well, you would use it for animal bedding, right? Or
you could use it for that too if you had that. But I mean, a lot of these guys, if you're a grain farmer, you're not also a cattle farmer.
Sure.
You know?
And if you live in a remote area, I mean, if you live down near where we are, down south of us, there's a lot of horse farms, so there's a lot of market for that, but for bedding. But if you're living in a sparsely populated area, I'm sure there's not, and everyone else is making straw too.
Yeah.
You could probably guess my opinion on the thing. What do you think about straw bale homes, Rob?
What do I think about straw bale homes? I think if I lived in a dry climate, I wouldn't feel uncomfortable doing it. I think the fact that you have to do so many more water management details in a damper climate, I'd be a little wary of it. I mean, if I wanted that, if I wanted that same effect, I would probably go with a double stud wall filled with cellulose, maybe in a.
The question I've always wondered, and maybe you can answer this, Matt, is like, why build with the bales? Why not insulate on the interior with the bales? Like, why not build a conventional light frame structure with sheathing
and you can do that also. There are all different kinds of assemblies that you can do. I mean, you don't even need to plaster over them. You can do it with a traditional cladding and just use the bales as an infill for insulation. And then just clad on the interior just like you would a normal house as well. So there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I seem to remember because I edited a case study of a house in Minnesota for a green building advisor years ago, and I think they basically built a timber frame and then just infilled with the straw bales.
Yeah, and that's basically what I think the code is addressing, is where you're essentially just plastering onto the straw bale.
Yeah,
and then it's sort of like it's not a load bearing wall, but it's sort of structural.
Well, the code assemblies are totally load-bearing walls using the bales. I mean,
Yeah.
I presume they have great strength because they're huge.
Well, yeah, and there's a lot of different kinds. I mean, you can build them as totally load-bearing, where you have sort of like a top timber that's bolted through the entire wall and cranked down so that the entire thing is sort of like rigid and held together. But a lot of times it's just, like you said, you build a timber frame and then you infill with the bales.
My only worry is like just keeping the water out, because I can only imagine what a moldy mess it would get in there if you didn't have everything perfect.
Yeah, but I don't know that it's much different from a traditional wall, you know? I mean, other than the fact that obviously we have a lot of stucco failures in a lot of places where there's stucco.
That's a topic for another
I mean,
discussion, but
I
yes.
think when people are building these houses, they're paying a lot more attention to the problems that they can have with the stucco, and they're building much deeper overhangs, and they're keeping those houses low. They're not building 2 or 3 story straw-bale houses and forgetting to build deep overhangs. They're building 2, 3, sometimes even bigger foot overhangs over a 1-story house.
But like as an example, how do you detail? You were talking about one of the things that you find appealing are the deep window wells, right? And so you could put the window on the exterior plane, right, or on the interior plane,
which is more typical for straw-bale, is to put it on the outside, and then you have almost like free seating or shelving space on the inside.
How do you get like water, flashing to stick on straw?
Well, because you're not building it on the straw, or you're not embedding it in the straw. You're building a window buck to hang that on.
So it's probably kind of similar to when you do exterior foam insulation. A lot of times people detail that they build those plywood bucks to get the window to mount to and to flash to. And then you just let that into your plaster.
I think any windows make no sense on any structure, but
Patrick hates light. He's a vampire.
I like you put the window at you put the window on the sheathing plane, and it makes life so much easier, and it's more foolproof, right? Am I wrong?
Well, plus you have that extra space on the inside of the house that you're not wasting.
I mean, people like the inset window look, and I get that, but boy, is it a hard way to put a window in.
Yeah, I don't think I would do that with straw-bale.
No.
Yeah.
I don't think I would do it anything.
But going back to your question about, would it be a moldy mess? You're talking more about sheathing and flashing details than the actual insulation being the problem.
Totally.
Because you think about cellulose as just shredded paper, so it's not really any different. It's just a matter of what you picture as the typical construction details in a straw bale.
Yeah, there's no sheathing.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
But there wasn't sheathing in a lot of these old houses either. I mean, if you were building an old timber frame, then you were just
Agreed, but it also had open cavities or drying.
That's true.
It's not like it's not going to hold water for very long.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. So anyway, this guy is asking about sort of this vapor retarder between the concrete.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
So, I mean, he was talking about using either 15 or 30-pound felt, and I think that is a no-go. I don't know where he heard that was a Class 2 vapor retarder.
Well,
and I know it isn't. Some people list it as that, but I don't think that's accurate.
It's really a 3.
Yeah, you need to look at the code, what that asks for, what it defines as a Class 2 vapor retarder, and it's talking about, 0.1 to 1 perms.
It's funny that the only example I could find was craft facing on fiberglass bats, right, is a Class 2.
Right.
Which means it's between 0.1 and 1 perms.
Yeah, if it's bitumen coated, I believe.
The tar stuff.
Yeah, the tar stuff. But membrane, that is basically plastic from Certainty. That's supposed to be a Class 2 vapor retarder.
That's an interior product. I don't know if you can put that on concrete. And
I don't know either.
My suggestion would be to contact one of the companies that makes a spray-applied WRB or foundation coatings. I think a roll-applied coating can probably satisfy this need for a Class 2 vapor retarder in this location.
Also, I would contact some people who are already building straw-bale houses.
Yeah, I mean, that's really the way to go.
Wrong show, the question.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to throw Ace McCarlton under the bus, but
He would know.
frameworks,
Yeah.
he would know. He can probably tell you exactly what you need to do here.
The thing is, like in Vermont, where they build, there's no one checking for this, so it's up to them to do the right thing. And I'm not suggesting they wouldn't, but class 2, class 3, class 1. No one's going to know the difference in Vermont.
And
there's
plus-
just not enough code enforcement.
Plus, when people are typically building, sort of these outside of the box kind of, I don't want to say fringe, but like, uncommon building methods, especially people who are kind of, find romanticized older systems that are in place. Sometimes those people are kind of latching on to something that they learned that might be out of date. So that's why it's really good to go to the experts who are doing the cutting edge stuff now.
Yeah.
And now, is there some sort of association?
Yeah, there are different ones. Where is this guy located? I don't even remember.
We don't know.
Okay. But yeah, there's different kinds of green building organizations or,
Yeah, what is that one on the West Coast? I think Bruce King has some like natural building. I'll look it up, but
yeah,
it's
we can put it up on the website. Yep. Look it up and
the thing I do like about the Straw-Bale is the low embodied energy. I mean, like that's a conversation we really need to start having in the building industry. Like concrete and foams are incredibly energy intensive, and boy, if you could take a waste product like this and build a good assembly with it, why not?
Yeah.
Somebody else should, not me.
Yeah, because so many of these energy efficient or alternative building systems are focused on the bottom line. They're focused on saving someone on their electric bill, but they're not looking at the big picture on what impact it is having on their local environment or
the global environment.
Yeah.
I'd love to see a well done Straw-Bale home under construction, just to ask these kind of questions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd love it if he sends some pictures in of this project
totally.
he's working on.
And I think he's asking these at the right time. He hasn't started building.
Yeah.
It's like so many people think about this when they're after the concrete's on the ground.
Right. But I mean, the code also allows you, rather than using the insulation between those sill plates, you can also use gravel or something else that's semi-vapor permeable. And you can just get, usually, I think what most people use is rigid foam, XPS, between those.
So concrete foundation, rigid foam, straw bales.
Yeah, and I don't know about it. I think you probably do have to have that vapor retarder underneath the plates and that foam. But
yeah.
You may be able to get away with just the foam. You might have to just ask your code enforcement officer what they're gonna allow you to do.
Yeah, my guess is that there might not be that person where you're building a straw bale home in many cases. So I can't wait to see it. Yeah. You have anything to add?
No, I'm all set.
What do you think?
Go for it, dude. I want to see it.
Yeah. Would you build one?
Oh, in a second. Yeah, I love them. They're labor intensive, though. I mean, you think you're going to save money by using all these, these leftover.
Oh, come on! One of the selling points is you have all your friends over and you just stack,
and you do a
straw bales.
plaster party.
Yeah,
yeah.
Doesn't work.
I mean, I guess if you have enough friends, but I mean, teaching people how to plaster, it's going to take you just as long as doing it yourself.
I had enough trouble teaching Habitat for Humanity drywall finishers how to finish drywall. I can't imagine what it'd be like spreading, full plaster coat on.
Well, at least with plaster, the expectation that it's going to look a little bit messy.
Rustic.
And you're going on to straw bales, which are not flat. I mean, you can sit there with a chainsaw all day and try to saw them down to like a flat plane, but it's never going to be perfect.
Is that how you cut them?
Oh, yeah. Yep. That and a sledgehammer, and you try to push them from either side and get them flat and stuff handfuls of straw in between.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm going to build an alternative place like that, I'll probably go out west and build an earth ship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, that is tires filled with dirt.
Rammed earth, not dirt.
Yeah.
That's another good idea. All right.